I'm sure you guys all remember variables from math class. A variable is generally a letter and it equals a numeric value. And processing variables also could be a descriptive word. This is called a user-defined variable. When you make up what it's called, what the variable's called, it's user-defined. There's something else in processing that's called a system variable. In a system variable, you can't make up the name. It's basically a keyword in processing. So if I use the system variable in one of my shapes, such as width, it's going to pull from the width of my size that I have set up in my size. If I use the system variable height, it's going to pull from the number I have set up here in my size for my y-axis. Let me show you what I mean. So here, for example, I have a line. It starts in the middle of my page, right? 250 is the x, and all the way at the top, 0. I want it to move randomly across the entire width of my page because this is my next x point. And I want it to stop. I only want it to go down half of my page because it's at 300. That's half of 600. So let's throw this into a processing sketch. And I'd like you to follow along and do the same. You can just copy and paste that. Sometimes PowerPoint brings in some little funny icons, so you have to watch out for that. All right, so let's see what this looks like. All right, we've seen this before. Here it is moving across the screen. But if I wanted to change anything in my size of my canvas, and that happens sometimes, it's no longer in the middle. So let's switch that out. So I'm going to use system variables instead, so that way if I change my size, it's always going to be in the middle. So here is my x, right? This is my width, and it's 250, which is the same as half of my width. So instead of putting in a fixed number, I'm going to make that width divided by 2. See how width becomes a different color? That means I'm using a system variable. The 0, that can stay the same. Okay, so this is my x, and this is my y. For a line, this is the next coordinate's my x, and then this is a y. So I'm asking it to move randomly 500 pixels, which is also my width, right? So instead of putting in 500, I'm going to say width. Here's my y, that's 300, which is currently half of my height. So instead of using that fixed number, I'm going to put in height divided by 2. Let's see if this still works. Beautiful. It still is in the middle. But here's the test. What if I change the width of my canvas? It still is in the middle. And it's still moving randomly my entire width. I didn't have to go and change this number to 800 when I changed it here because it's using the system variable width, so it pulls from this number here. Let's change the height. So currently, remember we had the fixed number of 300 before, which was half of 600. So let's see if I change this to 900, if this will still stop in half of the screen, in the middle of the screen. And it still does. Okay, so when you use system variables, it allows you to have a little bit more of a fluid layout, so you could change the size here, and things will still stay in proportion to where you wanted them originally. You can't put everything as a system variable. It's just really convenient when you want something that's going to be in the middle all the time, or spanning the full width, or perhaps something that's just to the third. You could still say width divided by 3 or width divided by 4, something like that. Easy numbers that to divide your width and height by. So I'm going to comment this one out, and let's do another one. Let's say I want to have a circle right in the middle of my screen. So I would put it at 400 and 450, right? And I'm going to make it 100 for its width and height. So let's check. Is that in the middle of the screen? Yes, it is. Now, you guys can already guess that if I change my width and my height up here in my size, it's no longer going to be in the middle of the screen. So instead, if I change this to be width divided by 2, and this one as height divided by 2, and now I change my numbers here, I'm going to make this 600, I'll make this 500. It still is in the middle of the screen. Okay, so I'd like you guys to do this one here to try to make a sketch that looks like this. I already gave you the circle. Now I want a rectangle that goes and spans the full width of the screen, and see if you can figure out how to get two lines also using system variables for their placement. All right, so this should have system variables and these guys as well. So do that one and then show me what you've got.